Hey, how's it going? I'm Coach Kyle, and in this video, I'm going to tell you about the Atreyu Artist, and I think more importantly, I'm going to compare it to the original base model from Atreyu. I'll talk about some details about this shoe, weight, how it feels, price, etc. We'll go into a little bit about, what to expect if you buy this and what size you should get, etc. But Atreyu also has their original base model. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the shoes' differences, the similarities, and maybe help you out with which one should you buy. So first off, if you want to learn more about Atreyu, the company itself, and it's different than most other shoe companies, check out the 1,000-mile review that I put up with this shoe. But today, I'm going to skip all that, and we're going to go right into this pair right here. So this is the Atreyu Artist. It arrived to the pre-order people like myself. I paid for this shoe like 5 months ago, and I got it this April. So I'm gonna talk about, kind of how it felt. And if you don't know, this shoe is pretty cushioned, and it is it's an alternative to kind of some of the Nike, the Saucony super shoes out there. So if you go to the Atreyu website, they kind of suggest this shoe. It's in their race category, and that's because, like I said, this has a carbon fiber plate inside, and it has a lot of foam under your foot. So this sucker is 24 millimeters thick right here and 30 millimeters thick back here. So it's cushioned. You're not going to feel much under your feet, but it's stable at the same time. It's got a pretty flat, wide footprint there. So it's not like those original Nike 4% where cornering was tough and you really felt like you were on a pretty narrow chassis. It's not true with these at all. They're 7.8 ounces in a men's 9, so about 8 ounces in my 10, and they're pretty light. They're heavier than the Nike 4%, than the Next percent. They're heavier than the original base model, but they're still a pretty light shoe. Being a neutral shoe, so there's not really any support. It's pretty flat in there with 6 millimeters of drop. That means if you like a lot of drop or if you like 0 drop, this is kind of a sweet spot. Like if you've been running in a 0 drop shoe, you'll probably notice the 6 millimeter drop, but it's going to be fine. And if you've been habitually running in a higher drop shoe, 6 millimeter drop, it's pretty safe to jump into. So when I got these, I took them out for a spin initially, and they felt actually better initially than both of my pairs of these have felt right out of the box. And I'm not really sure why that is, and I want to talk about kind of how I feel the shoes felt on my feet. So this is a $100 shoe, and it's not going to be like your Nike Next percent that is a $250 pair of shoes. But I think if you want a really nice, $100 is a pretty typical, actually cheaper than a lot of your normal shoes, and it's a good pair of shoes. It is really stable underfoot. I like that it's not like a super wide Ultra sole, but it's plenty spacious. I think for most people, you're gonna find that it fits really well. And I feel like with both the Atreyu shoes, your foot it fits nicely in the shoe. The shoe is not like continually hugging your foot. It's not perfectly shaped to the contours of your foot. It's more like your foot sits inside the shoe, but it stays in place pretty well, and they're light enough, they're stable enough that it almost feels like you're just running almost barefoot, like with some socks on, and the sole is just waiting on the ground for your foot to come down and land on top of. So I believe this shoe does have that Pebax foam, and Pebax is kind of the foam that a lot of these new super shoes are using, and it doesn't like push you forward, but it kind of just sucks up less energy than a typical EVA does. So it does have, and with that carbon fiber plate, again, it changes your ankle mechanics a little bit. It doesn't really like propel you forward, I don't think, as much as it feels like it's just not sucking up as much energy. And you might not think your shoes are doing that until you put on a pair of these new kind of like carbon fiber plated Pebax foamed super shoes. You might feel like, oh, they're just normal shoes. Yeah, they're just normal shoes, but there's something to these. They just feel really nice, and they do have a little bit of a bounce in there. Kind of, I can almost pinpoint it right here. Like you get a really good kind of whole foot landing, and you kind of just move forward. It does feel like a little bit of a bounce, like a little bit of a propel, but I think it's not so much pushing you forward, is this just holding you back a little less, if that makes sense. Now, if you have a pair of these and you're thinking about getting a pair of these, I say probably buy the same size. I'm a 10 in these and I'm a 10 in these. Now, if I feel like maybe these are just a tiny bit more spacious. So if these are a little bit on the large size for you, you could probably size down a half size in these and I'm sure it would be fine. Now you'll notice that they use the exact same upper. The tongue is a little different, but otherwise they're gonna feel basically the same. This shoe is gonna be a little heavier and it's not gonna be quite as flexible, but the upper is basically identical. And when it comes to this shoe, the differences are mostly in the weight, and that's because there is more foam under it, but also it has a rubber sole. And you'll see that, with this 1,000-mile pair, part of how they keep the weight down and the price down in these is that it's super simple. And part of how they do that is because there's no crazy weird pattern and overlays glued onto the bottom. Now they did add that with this, but that does help the traction a little bit. And this isn't like, it's not like a gloss finish. It's got lines in there. It's ribbed just a little bit. And it's like you're not gonna slip around. It looks smooth, but you're not gonna slip around in that pair. And that sole, that rubber sole, will help the durability of these shoes. So who should buy this shoe? Should you buy this shoe? And this is, I would suggest that maybe this is the fastest shoe you can get for $100. So the big question is, which shoe should you get? It's a tough question. Both of them? I'm not sure. This shoe, the base model, is super light, not as durable, and I think this shoe's more comfortable. It's lighter, it's more flexible, but this shoe is faster. It's still a pretty light shoe. It's not a heavy shoe by any means, and it's gonna last you longer. At $100, it's low. It's on the low range of like your high quality running shoe, where these suckers are $55 plus shipping on the Atreyu subscription service. So they're both really reasonably priced. You're not gonna get as many miles out of this pair, but this pair only comes in one color, and this model comes in some pretty sweet colorways. So, if you want something really flashy, you're gonna have to go with the base model. So one thing I could maybe recommend is, you get this pair for kind of your regular, your easy runs, and you get this pair for your long runs, your workouts, etc. And so you've got a little quicker of a shoe, a little more cushioning under the feet for those hard workouts, for those long runs. But on your easy days, you got something light, still cushioned, but not like super cushioned. So, you get a little bit more of a light shoe for your easy days, your shorter runs, but you still got that variation where you're not running in the same exact shoe for every single mile. But on the flip side, if you're running in something like a Hoka supportive shoe or like the Brooks Adrenaline, then this would be a lighter, more minimal shoe for you. Not minimal as in like stack height, but minimal as in there's just less shoe there, and it's a neutral shoe. So in that case, this could just be like a good workout or a good easy run day shoe for you. Or, at this price point, this could be like, if you want a really good super shoe, carbon fiber plated, that responsive foam for your races, but you don't want to shell out $250 for a pair of these, go with this bad boy. It's $150 less than this shoe, and it's gonna be almost there. It's heavier, it's not quite as responsive, and there's not quite as much like, oof, I'm gonna push you forward as with this pair, but for $150 less, I have no doubt that this is probably gonna be the fastest marathon shoe per dollar that you're gonna find. Now, yes, It's a little bit of a faster shoe right here, but again, I cannot stress that enough that for $150, I don't think you're gonna find a better, more responsive, faster half or full marathon road shoe than this one right here.